Welcome to the Path Bike Shop. My name is Tani and I'm here with Zach. Hey Zach.
What's up?
We're here to talk about the new Pivot Phoenix. Pretty stoked about this bike.
It's been a long time since I think a lot of the industry has been like over a downhill bike. I mean, downhill bikes are super cool, but to see something to, all of us watch it go from its raw carbon lugged prototype phase into something that's an actual like production model is super, super rad.
It was pretty cool getting to watch the story with the prototype and everything on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that lugged prototype, I got to see it in person. It was something else.
It's really cool.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Pivot has an in-house prototyping program where they make lugged carbon frames. So the lugs are CNC'd aluminum, I presume.
Yeah, that's aluminum.
So yeah, let's get into this thing. I think the thing that jumps right out at everyone is the two chains. It's
yeah.
The wrapper. Really smooth, right? It doesn't have, like when you ride it, you kind of almost expect there to be some drag.
For being a dual ring, dual chain system, it really doesn't feel like that, which is pretty shocking because you see stuff like this as like one-off made pieces by someone in their garage. And while this looks like that, it feels like every bike should have something like this on it because it just works so well. The numbers and kind of how all the rings play together with the chains, it equates to about a 35 tooth chainring.
Right, so let's get into that a little bit. What's the actual tooth count on the chainring?
The actual tooth count, I believe it was
It's small, it's a little ring.
It's tiny, it's like a 22 or 24, something like that, really small.
But that translates to a bigger size through basically the gearing with the pulleys.
Yeah, with the reduction gears, it equates to about a 35.
Not pulleys.
Right.
The two chains effectively does the same thing as a pulley system on a high pivot bike, right?
Essentially, yeah.
Isolates the pedal forces from the suspension movement.
Exactly.
Stops the pedal kickback that comes with all that chain growth. So it is a high pivot, right?
It is, yeah.
High pivot DW.
High pivot DW6, yep.
Man, we've all spent a lot of time on the Pivot website watching that animation of it going through the travel, right? Like it's like I watch it, and I'm like, I think I understand what's going on, and then I watch it again, I'm like, wait. Like,
it's always funny, and it can be a little bit misleading too, because you're specifically looking at that chainstay length, and it's...
And well, what that extra pivot does.
Yeah, exactly. So where your chainstay length statically as the bike sits right now is 443 millimeters. That's smaller than a lot of trail bikes can be nowadays. But you're not riding the bike when it's in its static position like this. You're riding it usually around sag. And at sag, it's usually going up around 15 millimeters, give or take.
I think we were saying 18 millimeters if you're at 30% sag.
Right, exactly, yeah. So there's
that's a lot.
A ton of growth when you're actually in the sag and riding the bike, which is gonna provide a really, really stable riding platform.
Yeah, that's a lot of growth. And that also creates a super plush experience because the wheel's moving back away from the bump, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, which only couples with just how much this thing can just tank through rock gardens from what we're told.
I was pretty blown away with the weight.
It was
3 something?
Just shy of 36 pounds with a funky chainring system going on the front, aluminum wheels, full-blown DH bike, and that's incredibly reasonable.
It's lighter than most of our enduro bikes.
Most of them.
Pretty wild. Specs good. Saint brakes, Saint drivetrain, 40 factory.
The cool thing I thought was they're speccing it with these Galfer Shark rotors, which is really cool to see. I like those rotors personally.
Yeah.
And the fact they're actually coming on production bikes is pretty cool to see.
And they're not cheap.
No, those rotors retail at about 140 bucks a piece, which for rotors is pretty ridiculous.
And it's not just because they look cool; they do seem to be really high performance.
The performance of these compared to the regular wave rotors is noticeable.
Yeah. What else is noteworthy on this one?
Well, if we're looking at the adjustments on this bike, you can get like if you compare it to the Santa Cruz V10, the V10's got a couple of extra adjustments, but this has adjustments that the Santa Cruz doesn't really have. So if we're looking at the standard high-low bottom bracket position, we got about a 1/2 degree of head tube angle adjustment on there. So we're in your high position, you're normally sitting right at 63. Moving to the low, you're gonna be at 62.5. But the other more interesting flip chip is the one that's on the bottom of the shock. That is your progression flip chip. So that's gonna turn you into a linear or a more progressive setup, depending on how you want the bike to ride, which can play really well with coil if you wanna set it up like that. And that's the idea behind that's Bernard Kerr's preferred setup, is running in the progressive setting on the bike.
With coil?
Yes.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to have a more progressive setup for the coil shock setup.
And you can run either shock setup either way. It's not a one or done type of thing. It's purely just a matter of preference, but there is one that makes more sense in theory.
100%. Reach in a medium's 465, 485 in a large. That's
so right along with kind of what we'd expect.
I'd ride a medium.
Yeah, me too.
You would ride a medium also?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my preferred reach number is around 465 to 470 is where I'd like to see it. So that large would be a little bit too big for me. The interesting thing is this is the first bike from Pivot. They're also technically not doing small, medium, large sizing. It's S1, S2, S3, which seems to be where a lot of the industry is trending. After Specialized, we saw Norco do it. Now Pivot's doing it.
Yep, very cool. Looks like you could probably run an angle set if you wanted.
Yes, the intention behind the headset, because it's a 56 straight top and bottom, you can put a reach adjust headset in here, so you can move that forward or backwards for a little bit more adjustment. It doesn't come like that, but you do have it as an option.
Is it 5 mils or 10 mils?
Depending on the manufacturer, when you have because the Fox 40 is a straight steer tube, you actually have the option of going up to an 8 millimeter, because you can really max the steer tube fore or aft.
You'd probably do 5, get to 470.
Honestly, I'd probably leave it at the 465 mark just to start, and I might play with the 470 down the road, but I would start at the 465 and be happy. But yeah, you can also do not reach adjust. You can do the angle adjust headset if you really wanted to make this thing slacker, which I don't know if you want to do that. It's already pretty slack at 62.5, but teach their own. Kind of funny, this is Pivot's in-house stem. It does have a little bit of adjustment too. You can have it between a 46 and a 49 millimeter length based off of center of steer tube to center of bar clamp. Depending on just how you want to set it up, get a little bit of adjustment there. It's worth noting.
Do you know the offset on this for?
52.
Okay.
All of these ship with a 52, which 52 is kind of like the standard offset for DH bikes that are 29 front, which is pretty much all of them nowadays.
Interesting.
But you do have options from Fox to swap to a 48 crown if you want to make it a little bit more reduced. And that's how the transition TR11, they want to make it a little bit snappier handling, so they spec a 48 versus the 52 that's on more of a race-focused bikes.
It's interesting because it's snappier from a wheelbase perspective, but it actually increases the trail.
Yes, exactly.
So it's kind of less quick steering.
Totally, yeah, it depends on how, you look at it.
Run that shorter offset fork. I definitely like that on enduro bikes.
I tried both on my TR11 downhill bike, and I like the feeling of the 48 a little bit better, but I'm not racing it too.
I wonder, maybe it is race conditions. I wonder why enduro racers have embraced the shorter offsets and downhill racers haven't.
I think partly it has to do with head tube angles becoming slacker and slacker. As you get slacker head tube angles, the reduced offset does make a little bit more sense with keeping, I think, the steering angles in check or something like that.
Yeah, makes sense. But then again, do it on the downhill bike.
Yeah.
Curious, what length cranks are these?
It should come with 165s.
What else is going on with this thing?
So with the crank specifically, because the way that these cranks interface with the drive system in the front, they are a proprietary crankset for this bike, so that's the one thing you really can't swap out on this. If you wanted to buy the bike as a frame set, which is an option, it ships with the cranks and idler system in the front to use on whatever drivetrain system you wanted to run, whether it's single speed, Shimano Saint, or the SRAM GX or XO downhill drivetrains.
And then we tension the chain by moving the upper.
Yes, the upper
chain
cog
ring.
is, I don't know if I want to quite describe it as eccentric, but it is to an extent because you can clock it in order to provide tension.
The mount is eccentric, maybe?
I believe it is, yeah.
Interesting.
That's the way they describe it in
and
their,
there's actually
two
extra chain rings in there.
Correct.
That's how they get that gear.
Yeah, so there's a total of 3 chain rings in the front for your reduction gears.
Very fun.
The kind of one of the cool things about this is it doesn't really matter on downhill bikes, but you do have a pretty long uninterrupted seat tube. So if you wanted to get insane and put a reverb axis or a Fox Neo transfer post in there, you could. And it is UDH in the back, which makes the replacement hangers easy to find. But you could put transmission on it too and make this into an ultimate free ride bike.
That's funny.
That'd be ridiculous, but you could.
Doesn't look like the seat angle's super slack.
It's not.
Yeah, that's funny. We have the other color with the black and gold. That's also super awesome.
I love that color with a little bit of sparkle and the polka dot splatter. It looks so good.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for checking us out at the Path Bike Shop, and let's all remember to love the bike we ride.